My name is Clara and I am 58 years old. A month ago I was robbed on my way home from the bank. They took everything. My savings, my cards, my peace of mind. Just days later, my son-in-law suddenly bought a brand new house and a truck. Then my daughter-in-law and her parents kicked me out of the home I paid for. A week later, they were begging me to come back. But by then, I had already discovered the truth. Before I tell you what I found out, I want to know where you are watching from today. Drop a comment below, and please hit that like button and subscribe. What I am about to share will make you question everyone you thought you could trust. Let me take you back to the beginning, before my world fell apart, before the betrayal, before I learned that the people closest to you can be the ones who hurt you the most. I had been a widow for 3 years when all of this happened. My husband Harold passed away from a heart attack, leaving me alone in the house we had shared for over 3 decades. Harold was a good man. He worked as an electrician for 35 years, never missing a day unless he was truly sick. He believed in saving every penny and planning for the future. When he died, he left me with $160,000 in our savings account. It was not a fortune, but it was everything we had worked for together. Harold and I had 2 children. Our son Derek was 32, working as an office administrator at a small company downtown. He had married Gloria about 4 years before Harold passed. Gloria was 30, and she never seemed to hold down a steady job. She would work at a retail store for a few months, then quit because the manager was mean or the hours were inconvenient. Derek always made excuses for her. Our daughter Patricia was 32 years younger than Derek. She had become a nurse at the local hospital, and I was proud of how hard she worked. Patricia married Vincent when she was 26. Vincent was 33, worked in sales, but he jumped from job to job constantly. He always talked about big deals that were just around the corner, but somehow the money never seemed to follow. After Harold died, I felt lost in our big empty house in Austin, Texas. Every room reminded me of him. His chair in the living room, his tools in the garage, the garden he used to tend every Sunday morning. I could not escape the memories, and the loneliness was suffocating. That is when Derek suggested I sell the house and move in with him and Gloria. They were renting a small 2-bedroom apartment at the time, barely enough space for the 2 of them. Derek said if I sold the house, we could use the money to buy a bigger place where we could all live together. He painted a beautiful picture of family dinners, of me being close to my grandchildren when they eventually had kids, of never being alone again. I believed him. I sold our family home for $120,000. It was worth more, but the market was slow, and I was eager to start fresh. With that money plus some of my savings, I put $80,000 toward a 3-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood. The house would be in my name. That was my one condition. Derek and Gloria agreed without hesitation. They seemed so grateful. The arrangement was simple. I would live in 1 bedroom, they would have the master, and the 3rd room would be a guest room or eventually a nursery. I would contribute to the monthly bills, and we would share the household responsibilities. It seemed perfect. For the first few months, things were fine. Gloria was sweet to me, always asking if I needed anything, always complimenting my cooking. But slowly, things began to change. Gloria stopped helping around the house. When I asked her to wash the dishes or vacuum the living room, she would complain of headaches or say she was too tired from job hunting. Except she never seemed to actually be looking for a job. I started noticing other things too. Gloria would spend hours on the phone with her mother Doris, who lived in Houston, with her husband Raymond. From what I gathered, Raymond had been unemployed for about 5 years, and Doris worked part-time as a cashier at a grocery store. They were always struggling financially. One evening, I overheard Gloria talking to her mother in the kitchen. She did not know I was in the hallway. "Do not worry, Mom," Gloria said. "We will figure something out. Derek is working on getting a raise, and once that happens, I can send you more money." I found it strange that Gloria was promising to send money to her parents when she did not even have a job herself. Where was that money going to come from? I pushed the thought aside, telling myself it was none of my business. Then there was Vincent, my other son-in-law. Whenever Patricia brought him over for dinner, he was always charming, always asking about my health, always interested in my life. But I noticed that his questions often turned to money. "Mom, you should really invest that savings of yours," he said one evening. "I know some great opportunities, real estate stocks. I could help you double your money in a year." I told him no, thank you. I preferred to keep my money safe in the bank where I could see it. Harold had always said that get-rich-quick schemes were just ways for other people to get rich off your hard work. Vincent seemed disappointed, but he did not push further. I thought nothing of it at the time. I thought he was just trying to be helpful. Looking back now, I can see all the warning signs I missed. But when you trust someone, when you love them, you do not want to believe they could ever hurt you. That trust would cost me everything. The robbery happened on a Tuesday afternoon in September. The weather was turning cooler, and I had gone to the bank to withdraw $5,000 in cash. The roof of the house needed repairs, and the contractor I hired only accepted cash payments. It was more money than I usually carried, but I thought it would be safe. The bank was only a 15-minute walk from home. I had just turned onto Maple Street, about 3 blocks from the house, when a black pickup truck pulled up beside me. It happened so fast. 2 men in dark clothing and ski masks jumped out. One of them grabbed my purse while the other shoved me hard. I fell onto the sidewalk, scraping my hands and knees on the concrete. By the time I looked up, they were already speeding away. I screamed for help, but the street was empty. By the time a neighbor came out to check on me, the truck had disappeared around the corner. The police arrived 20 minutes later. They took my statement, asked me to describe everything I could remember about the men and the vehicle. But there was not much to tell. They wore masks. The truck had no visible plates. The security camera on the corner had been broken for over a week. In my purse was everything. $5,000 in cash, my debit card and credit card, my driver license and social security card, my cell phone. The officer told me to cancel my cards immediately and monitor my accounts for suspicious activity. Derek picked me up from the hospital after they treated my scrapes and bruises. He seemed genuinely worried, holding my arm as we walked to the car, asking if I was okay every few minutes. Gloria, on the other hand, barely looked up from the television when we got home. "Are you okay?" she asked without getting up from the couch. "I am fine," I said. "Just shaken." She nodded and turned back to her show. Patricia called that evening, crying on the phone. She wanted to drive down from Houston immediately, but I told her to wait until the weekend. There was no point in her missing work. Vincent also called, and his concern surprised me. He asked detailed questions about the robbery. What did they take? Did they get your cards, your ID? Do the police have any leads? I told him everything, grateful for his interest. He suggested I cancel all my cards and change my bank account information immediately. I told him I had already done that. 2 days after the robbery, I decided to check my savings account online. I had changed my password and set up new security questions just as the bank advised. When I logged in, my heart stopped. The balance read zero, $100,000, gone. I called the bank immediately, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold the phone. The customer service representative put me on hold for what felt like an eternity before transferring me to the fraud department. A woman named Janet explained what had happened. The money had been transferred out of my account via online banking at 2:17 in the morning, 2 nights after the robbery. The person who made the transfer had all my information, my password, my PIN, my security questions, everything. But I did not make that transfer, I said. I was asleep. Someone stole my information. Janet told me they would open an investigation, but it could take weeks or even months to resolve. In the meantime, my money was gone. I filed another report with the police, but the detective assigned to my case did not seem optimistic. Online fraud was complicated, he said. The money had been routed through multiple accounts, possibly overseas. These cases were difficult to solve. I hung up the phone and sat in my room staring at the wall. Everything Harold and I had saved over 35 years of marriage. Everything we had sacrificed for. Gone in an instant. About a week after the robbery, Patricia called with what she thought was good news. "Mom, you will not believe it," she said excitedly. "Vincent just bought us a house and a new truck, a Ford F-150. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Vincent bought a house and a truck. He closed a huge deal at work, Patricia explained. Some new client. He would not tell me all the details, but it must have been big. I asked her what kind of deal it was. She said she did not know. Vincent handled all the finances. After I hung up, I could not shake the uneasy feeling. Vincent had been complaining about money for years. He was always between jobs, always waiting for the next big opportunity. And suddenly, right after I lost $100,000, he could afford a house and a brand new truck. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe he really did close a big deal. Maybe his luck had finally turned around. But deep down, something did not feel right. 2 weeks after the robbery, my life took another devastating turn. I was sitting in the living room reading a book when Gloria came through the front door, followed by 2 people I had only met a handful of times. Her parents, Raymond and Doris. Raymond was a heavy-set man in his early 60s, with a permanent scowl on his face. Doris was thin and sharp-featured, with eyes that seemed to calculate the value of everything they looked at. They carried 4 large suitcases between them. "Gloria," I said, standing up. "What is going on?" Gloria smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "My parents are moving in with us. They lost their apartment in Houston. The landlord raised the rent, and they could not afford it anymore." I looked at the suitcases, then at Raymond and Doris. They did not greet me. Raymond walked straight past me to the living room, sat down on my couch, and picked up the remote control. Doris headed for the kitchen and began opening cabinets like she was taking inventory. "Gloria," I said slowly, "we only have 3 bedrooms." "Exactly," Gloria replied. "That is why we need to make some arrangements." I felt a chill run down my spine. What kind of arrangements? Before Gloria could answer, Derek came home from work. He stopped in the doorway when he saw his in-laws' confusion crossing his face. But when Gloria shot him a look, he closed his mouth and said nothing. That evening, after a tense and silent dinner, Gloria asked me to come to the living room. Raymond and Doris were already there, sitting on the couch like they owned the place. Derek stood beside his wife, avoiding my eyes. Clara Gloria began. "We need to talk about the living situation." I waited. "With my parents here, we simply do not have enough room for everyone. 5 people in 3 bedrooms is just not practical." Raymond leaned forward. "You had better leave. We will not have enough room for 5 people." I stared at him in disbelief. "Leave? This is my house. I bought this house with my own money." Gloria let out a small laugh. "The house might be in your name, but we have been paying the bills. We have been taking care of everything while you just sit around." That was a lie. I had been contributing to the household expenses every single month. I had receipts. I had bank statements. Doris spoke up for the first time. "You can sleep on the couch if you want. Or better yet, get a hotel room, just until we figure things out." I turned to Derek, my own son. "Derek, are you going to let them do this to me? Are you going to let them throw me out of my own home?" Derek shifted his weight from one foot to the other. He still would not look at me. "Mom," he said quietly, "it is just temporary, until we figure things out." In that moment I understood. My son had chosen his wife over his mother. He had chosen these strangers over the woman who raised him. I went to my room and sat on the bed. The tears came then hot and unstoppable. Everything I had built, everything I had sacrificed was crumbling around me. My savings were gone. My home was being taken from me. And my own son would not even stand up for me. That night I could hear them laughing in the living room. Raymond's deep chuckle, Doris's high-pitched giggle, Gloria's satisfied murmur. They were celebrating. They thought they had won. The next morning, I packed a single suitcase with my essentials. Raymond was eating breakfast at the kitchen table, not bothering to acknowledge me. Doris was making coffee like she had lived there for years. Gloria appeared with a piece of paper. "Here," she said, "sign this." I looked at the document. It was some kind of power of attorney form giving Derek and Gloria full control over the house. "I am not signing anything," I said. Gloria's face hardened. "Fine, but do not expect to come back." Derek was standing in the hallway watching. He did not say a word. I walked out the front door, pulling my suitcase behind me. The morning air was cool, but I barely felt it. I called a taxi and asked the driver to take me to the nearest hotel. As I watched the house disappear in the rearview mirror, I made myself a promise. I would not let them get away with this. Whatever it took, I would find out the truth. And I would take back what was mine. I checked into a small hotel near downtown and spent the first 2 days in a fog of grief and confusion. I kept replaying everything in my mind. The robbery, the missing money, Vincent's sudden wealth, Gloria's parents showing up out of nowhere, the way they had pushed me out of my own home. The pieces were all there, but I could not quite put them together. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. And I was determined to find out what. On the 3rd day, I made a decision. I could not trust the police to solve this. Their investigation was moving too slowly, if it was moving at all. I needed to take matters into my own hands. I searched online for private investigators in the Austin area and found a man named Frank Morrison. He had been in the business for over 20 years, specializing in financial crimes and fraud investigations. His reviews were excellent, and his fees were reasonable. I called him that afternoon and explained everything. The robbery, the stolen savings, Vincent's sudden purchase of a house and truck, the way Gloria and her parents had forced me out. When I finished, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. Mrs. Clara Frank said finally, "This sounds like an inside job. What do you mean? I mean someone close to you planned this. The robbery, the identity theft, all of it. It is too coincidental otherwise." I felt sick to my stomach. "But who? Why? That is what I am going to find out," Frank said. "Give me a few days." Those next few days were the longest of my life. I stayed in my hotel room, barely eating, barely sleeping. Every time my phone rang, I jumped. Finally, on the 4th day, Frank called. I found some things he said. "Can you meet me at my office?" I took a taxi to his office, a small space above a dry cleaning shop on the east side of town. Frank was a tall man in his late 50s, with silver hair and sharp blue eyes. He had the look of someone who had seen too much of the ugly side of human nature. He gestured for me to sit down and opened a manila folder on his desk. "Let me start with your son-in-law." "Vincent," Frank said. I did some digging into his finances. Turns out he has been hiding a serious gambling problem. He owes nearly $50,000 to some very dangerous people. I felt the blood drain from my face. Gambling, poker, sports, betting, you name it. He has been in over his head for at least 2 years. The debts were piling up, and the people he owed money to were starting to make threats. Frank flipped to another page in the folder. About 3 weeks ago, Vincent made contact with 2 men named Tony Salazar and Marcus Webb. Both have prior convictions for robbery and assault. I managed to get some photos of them meeting at a bar on the south side of town about 4 days before your robbery. He slid the photos across the desk. Two rough-looking men sitting across from Vincent in a dimly lit booth. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Frank continued. The day after your money disappeared from your bank account, Vincent received a wire transfer of $90,000 into an account he opened under a different name. The money was routed through 3 different banks to hide its origin, but I traced it back. It came from your account. I could not breathe. Vincent stole my money. It gets worse, Frank said. After receiving the money, Vincent paid off his gambling debts. The remaining funds went toward a down payment on a house and the purchase of a new truck, all within a week of your robbery. I sat there stunned into silence. My son-in-law had orchestrated the entire thing. The robbery, the identity theft. He had stolen $100,000 from me to pay off his gambling debts and buy himself a new life. What about my daughter, I managed to ask. Did Patricia know? Frank shook his head. From what I can tell, Patricia is in the dark. She has been working her normal shifts at the hospital. Her finances are separate from Vincent's. She seems to have no idea what her husband has been doing. I felt a small measure of relief, but it was quickly replaced by fresh horror. What about Derek? And Gloria? Frank's expression grew even more serious. I found evidence that Gloria and Vincent have been communicating frequently over the past few months. Text messages, phone calls, meetings at coffee shops. It appears Gloria knew about Vincent's plan from the beginning. In exchange for her silence, Vincent promised her a cut of the money. How much? $10,000. And she had another condition. She wanted you out of the house. With you gone, she and her parents could move in and essentially take over. And Derek? Frank sighed. Your son may not have known all the details, but he was not innocent. Gloria gave him $5,000 to keep quiet about pushing you out. He took the money. $5,000. That was the price my own son had put on his mother. $5,000 to betray me. To watch strangers take over my home. To stand there in silence while I was thrown out onto the street. I do not know how long I sat in Frank's office. Time seemed to have stopped. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady, but inside I was shattered. What do we do now? Frank closed the folder. We take this to the police. With the evidence I have gathered, they will have enough to make arrests. And then we get you your house back. I nodded slowly. Let us do it. The next morning, I walked into the Austin Police Department with Frank by my side. We asked to speak with Detective Martinez, a sharp woman in her early 50s who had been assigned to my case. She had been skeptical when I first reported the robbery, but her attitude changed quickly when she saw what Frank had uncovered. She spread the documents across her desk. Financial records, phone logs, photographs, the trail of money from my account to Vincent's hidden accounts to the gambling bookies. This is solid evidence, Detective Martinez said. I can get warrants issued today. By that afternoon, police officers were at Vincent's new house. Patricia called me hysterical. Mom, what is happening? There are police everywhere. They are arresting Vincent. I could hear the fear in her voice, the confusion. She truly had no idea. Patricia, I said gently, I need you to come to the police station. There are things you need to know. An hour later, Patricia sat across from Detective Martinez as the truth came out. Vincent had planned the robbery. He had stolen my identity and drained my savings. He had used that money to pay off his gambling debts and buy their new house. Patricia broke down in tears. I did not know, she kept saying. I did not know. I held her hand. I believe you, sweetheart. This is not your fault. The police also picked up Tony Salazar and Marcus Webb, the 2 men who had physically robbed me. Faced with the evidence, they quickly turned on Vincent, confirming that he had hired them and provided them with information about when and where I would be carrying cash. That same day, officers arrived at the house I had bought for Derek and Gloria. Raymond and Doris tried to hide in their room, but they were brought out for questioning. Gloria was taken to the station in handcuffs. Under interrogation, Gloria admitted everything. She had known about Vincent's plan for months. She had helped him by providing information about my schedule and my banking habits. In return, she received $10,000 and the promise that I would be removed from the house. She showed no remorse. Even as they led her away, she glared at me, like I was the one who had wronged her. Derek was questioned separately. He claimed ignorance of the larger scheme, but he admitted to accepting $5,000 from Gloria, hush money. He knew something was wrong when his in-laws moved in and his mother was pushed out. But he took the money anyway and stayed silent. The detective asked me if I wanted to press charges against Derek. I thought about it for a long time. He was my son, my firstborn, the baby I had held in my arms and sworn to protect. But he had also betrayed me in the worst possible way. No, I said finally. But I want him to know what he did. And I want him out of my house. With Gloria arrested and Derek's involvement exposed, taking back my house was straightforward. My lawyer filed the necessary paperwork, and within a week I had full control of my property again. Derek was given 30 days to find somewhere else to live. He called me begging. Mom, please. I made a mistake. I am so sorry. Do not do this. You knew what they were doing, I said. You took money to keep quiet while they threw me out. That was not a mistake, Derek. That was a choice. He had nothing to say to that. Raymond and Doris were forced to leave immediately. They packed their suitcases and called a taxi, refusing to even look at me on their way out. Doris muttered something under her breath about ungrateful people, which was ironic given they had been living in my house rent-free while plotting to steal it. As for the money, the legal process was complicated but ultimately successful. The bank's investigation confirmed I was the victim of fraud, and their insurance covered most of my losses. Vincent was forced to sell the house and truck he had bought with my stolen money. After legal fees and restitution, I received $85,000. It was not everything I had lost, but it was enough. More importantly, I had my dignity back. I had proven that I was not just some helpless old woman who could be robbed and discarded. Vincent was charged with conspiracy to commit robbery, identity theft, wire fraud, and several other offenses. His trial lasted 3 days. His lawyer tried to paint him as a desperate man who had made mistakes under pressure, but the evidence was overwhelming. The judge was not sympathetic. You robbed your own mother-in-law, the judge said. You exploited her trust and took everything she had worked for her entire life. You showed no remorse and no regard for the harm you caused. Vincent was sentenced to 4 years in state prison. Gloria received a lesser sentence for her role as an accessory. She pleaded guilty to fraud charges and received 2 years of probation and a permanent criminal record. Her dreams of an easy life in my house were over. In the months that followed, I had to rebuild not just my finances, but my entire sense of trust. Patricia filed for divorce immediately after Vincent's arrest. She could not bear to look at him, she told me. Every memory of their marriage was now tainted by the knowledge of what he had done. She came to stay with me during the divorce proceedings. We would sit on the porch in the evenings, drinking tea and talking about everything and nothing. I should have seen the signs, Patricia said one night. He was always secretive about money, always had some scheme going on. Do not blame yourself, I told her. He fooled everyone, even me. Patricia threw herself into her work as a way of coping. Within a year, she had been promoted to head nurse at her hospital. I watched with pride as my daughter transformed her pain into strength. As for Derek, our relationship remained strained for a long time. He moved into a small apartment across town after leaving my house. For the first few months, he did not call or visit. I think he was too ashamed. Then one day, about 6 months after everything happened, he showed up at my door. He looked different, thinner, older. There were dark circles under his eyes. "Mom," he said, "can we talk?" I let him in. We sat in the living room, the same room where Gloria and her parents had demanded I leave. "I have been seeing a therapist," Derek said, "trying to understand why I did what I did, why I let Gloria control me, why I chose her over you." I did not say anything. I just listened. "I was weak," he continued. "I was so afraid of losing her that I would have done anything she asked, even if it meant hurting you. But that is not an excuse. There is no excuse for what I did." He started to cry. "I am so sorry, Mom. I know I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I regret what I did every single day. And I am going to spend the rest of my life trying to make it right." It took me a long time to respond. Part of me wanted to hug him and tell him everything was okay, but another part of me remembered the way he had stood there in silence while they threw me out. "I am not ready to forgive you," I said finally, "but I am willing to give you a chance to show me you have changed." That was 2 years ago. Since then, Derek has been true to his word. He visits me every week. He helps with repairs around the house. He calls just to check on me. He and Gloria divorced, and he has stayed single, focusing on rebuilding his life and his relationship with me. I cannot say I have fully forgiven him. The scar of his betrayal is still there, but scars fade with time. And I believe in second chances. After everything that happened, I decided to sell the house where so much pain had occurred. I bought a small condominium closer to downtown with a lovely balcony overlooking a park. It is just the right size for one person, and I have decorated it exactly the way I want. I started writing a blog about my experience. I called it Second Chances After 60. I shared my story, how I was robbed and betrayed by people I trusted, how I fought back, how I rebuilt my life. To my surprise, thousands of people responded. Other widows who had been taken advantage of. Elderly people whose families had stolen from them. Survivors who thought they were alone. I realized I was not alone, and neither were they. It has been 3 years since that terrible day when I was pushed out of my own home. I am 61 now, and I can honestly say I am happier than I have been in a long time. Patricia remarried last year. Her new husband is a doctor. She met at the hospital a kind and gentle man named Robert, who adores her. They have a baby daughter now, my first grandchild. Her name is Hope. I spend as much time with Hope as I can. I watch her sleep in her crib, so peaceful, so unaware of all the ugliness in the world. And I pray that she will never have to experience the kind of betrayal I did. Derek has continued to prove himself. He got a better job, works hard, and lives simply. He has become more thoughtful, more humble. He and Patricia have reconciled too, and sometimes the three of us have dinner together, almost like a real family again. Almost. Vincent is still in prison. He will be released next year. Patricia has made it clear she wants nothing to do with him ever again. Neither do I. Gloria is somewhere in Houston living with her parents. I heard she got a job at a call center. I do not know if she has changed or if she still blames everyone else for her problems. Honestly, I do not care. She is no longer part of my life. Looking back on everything that happened, I have learned some hard lessons. First, I learned that money reveals people's true character. Harold used to say that money does not change people, it just shows who they really are. He was right. When my money was there for the taking, Vincent, Gloria, even Derek, they all showed me who they really were. Second, I learned that you must always protect yourself even from family. I was too trusting. I put my money into a house for my son without proper legal protections. I shared my banking information too freely. I assumed that family would never hurt me. That assumption nearly cost me everything. Third, and most importantly, I learned that anger and bitterness are prisons. For a long time after everything happened, I was consumed by rage. I hated Vincent. I hated Gloria. I hated Derek. I hated myself for being so naive. But carrying all that hatred was exhausting. It was eating me alive. Slowly, with the help of a good therapist and a lot of prayer, I learned to let go. Not to forgive them necessarily, but to release myself from the burden of hating them. Vincent is paying for his crimes. Gloria has to live with what she did. Derek is trying to make amends. I do not need to hold on to the anger anymore. They have already lost. And I have already won. When they pushed me out of my own house, they thought they had won. They thought I was just a helpless old woman with nowhere to go and no one to turn to. They thought I would give up. They were wrong. I had survived losing Harold, the love of my life. I had survived raising 2 children through hard times. I had survived decades of struggles and setbacks that would have broken lesser people. I was not about to let a scheming son-in-law and a greedy daughter-in-law take everything from me without a fight. If you are watching this and you feel like your family has betrayed you, know that you are not alone. And know that you have more strength than you think. Trust your instincts, protect yourself, get everything in writing, and never ever let anyone make you feel like you do not deserve to be treated with dignity. They wanted me gone. But here I am, still standing, still breathing, still living my life on my own terms. And honestly, I have never felt more free. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? How did you handle it? Did you find a way to move forward? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these stories. And if you have not already, please subscribe to the channel so you do not miss any future videos. Also, if you know someone who needs to hear this message, please share this video with them. Thank you so much for watching until the end. It means the world to me that you took the time to listen to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort, some wisdom, or at least the knowledge that whatever you are going through, you can survive it too. Take care of yourselves, protect your hearts, and remember, the people who try to break you down are never as strong as the spirit that refuses to stay broken. Until next time.